Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. A very good afternoon to you on the East Coast. I'm Robert McNeely as Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing 1 hour from now. The superstar, the White House press secretary, to detail everything going on at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and a big focus, of course, in the federal city at Capitol Hill this week. Democrats do not want to fund DHS. They are putting their heels in the sand. Republicans want that Save America Act, at least seemingly the majority of them in Washington, D.C. Can they cross that 60-vote threshold that Leader Thune is trying to reach in the Senate? We'll bring you all of the exclusive, including the vice president's trip to Azerbaijan, overseas right now, having been in Armenia and Italy as well over the course of the last few days. But we have a real treat for you today with a very special guest, Ashley Elaine, an actress who is really making some great strides in Christian filmmaking with a recent film, Where the Wind Blows, based on a timeless novel, a very romantic story, and one that has been nominated for 3 ICVM awards and also winning several content awards, including Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Teen Actor. Welcome, Ashley Elaine, to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Tell us about this film and what inspired you to get involved in Christian filmmaking.
Hi, well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I've started in Christian filmmaking about 15 years ago. I've been in production, and then 6 years ago, I started acting. And my passion is just doing family-friendly projects. And I just saw that there was such a need for really great storytelling. And so I figured that I would combine my two worlds that I was a part of and created my own production company, AE Productions Inc. And I just want to bring storytelling to a whole different level for Christian media, for faith-based storytelling, for family-friendly storytelling that can be very cinematic.
And we're starting to see that in these spaces where people seem to be unafraid to share that gospel, whether it's sports like we saw at the Super Bowl the other day, to music and Jelly Roll at the Grammy Awards, to exactly what you're doing in the faith space for visual media. So faith and family driven film and television, where can it continue to grow, and how can people get involved like you who may not have began their careers in the arts?
Well, I just figured that if I wanted to be a part of a role that lined up with my morals and values, that I would have to create that content myself. And it is difficult in this space to a lot of times get the funding that we need because we're not a studio, we're independent filmmakers. And so I would just encourage people that if you appreciate family-friendly content and faith-based content, to go out and help support us, to pray over it, to click on it, to write about it, and just spread the word that this is something that you want more of.
And what does that look like in the independent film distribution, whether it be Christian or even secular, with getting those stories out there and to get them successful so it's reaching a whole new base of viewership?
Well, it has to be very intentional, and you have to have a great strategy from development, distribution to partnerships. Um, I just I just feel like there's just such a need for more content out there like this. And luckily, we found a wonderful distributor that partnered with us, and we got our movie out on Amazon Prime and Apple TV, and Up Faith and Family is going to stream it soon. And so I feel like we're moving in the right direction for more content like this.
Well, tell us about that journey as well behind Where the Wind Blows, redirecting this film that is showcasing really a lovely story. And you're out on the plains, you're out west, dealing with some past what Americans had gone through, perhaps being frontiersmen, but also thinking about something that we can relate to now in 2026, being a widow and wanting to have adoption happen. Of course, that was a huge theme of a Super Bowl commercial as well. And then a friend strolls on into your life, and this prince decides to help you out there. So can you tell the people about the film, and for those who might not have seen it yet?
Yes. Well, Where the Wind Blows is based off the acclaimed novel by Caroline Leavitt. It's an 1880s romantic Western, and it's just a lovely story of a young widow that really just wants to have a family and she wants to adopt this little girl. And she enlists the help of a very attractive cowboy, and luckily he decides to help her. And it's just kind of a lovely backwards way of how they connect and create a family. And the pages just come to life off of this book. We filmed for 17 days in Montana, and we had to be in authentic garments. I had to be in 6 layers of corsets and costumes. I mean, it was all from the 1880s, guns and all sorts of things. And it just really brings you back to that time period, and you get to see how hard it was for people to live like this. But overall, the story of Where the Wind Blows is about hope, resilience, and love. And I just really feel that audiences will enjoy it.
Well, the authenticity definitely in the film, incredible acting, amazing cinematography, including your role as well. Now, how do you find acting and producing to be a calling, especially in a time where we've seen the mainstream entertainment industry perhaps not glorify Christ, as hope seems to be lacking at times, but we have great independent outlets like your own that are telling these timeless stories and these great novels being remembered through the cinematic brilliance of film?
Well, this story really is about, like you said, hope. And even in the hardest times, not to lose it and not to lose your faith. And I really connected with my character, Jessie Strong. She goes through a lot in her life, and there could have been many times for her to give up, but she just kept going and persevered and didn't lose hope and faith in the Lord and in herself. And ultimately, it did work out in the end.
No, it's a remarkable story, a great book as well, and I highly recommend everyone to see Where the Wind Blows. Now, how about women leadership in Christian media? How is that field changing as of recent? Because you were someone who dove right into it, decided to start your own production company, went out there, you were brave to do that. I'm sure it came with a lot of sacrifice, and then thought, heck, I'm also gonna star in some of these movies as well.
Well, I definitely wanted to create the opportunity for myself to line up with projects that were in line with my morals and values. And, we had to put the whole deal together. We had to get private investors in. We had to, go from development all the way to distribution. I think it's a really exciting time for women in Christian film and media. I think that we bring a different perspective and strength and vision to this space. And I'm extremely honored to be recognized at the ICVM Crown Awards in that regard, and at the National Religious Broadcast Convention that's happening in a few weeks at NRB. I'll be there. And I just, I'm wanting to help and mentor women in this space as well, so we all can band together and just keep growing. And so I have tried to do that. And I encourage women in this space to reach out to a good mentor that they can look up to. And so we can continue to make this sort of content.
And how would you recommend for someone who might be completely green in this, especially a gal that's out there, has some business experience or what have you, and says, I want to be an actress, I'm called to all this. Not only should they go to that NRB convention in Nashville, Tennessee in a couple weeks here, but perhaps how would they get started with a mentor in this business?
First, I think that you should look up who you admire and obviously attend acting classes and research everything, but seek out your mentors. If there's someone that really stands out, a lot of times you'd be surprised if you reach out to them. They are pretty willing to get on a phone call or a Zoom with you. And that's been my experience. And just keep going forward with your passion. Really, really put your whole heart into it. And of course, pray over it. God is in control and will open the doors for you to find your calling and your passion.
Ask and you shall receive. Storytelling that's engaging hearts without compromising values. Ashley, Elaine, where can we find your great production company? And where can we find this great film that you recently were part of, Where the Wind Blows?
Where the Wind Blows. Thank you. Well, Where the Wind Blows is streaming now on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. In a few weeks, it'll also be streaming on Up Faith and Family Network. And my production company is AE Productions, Inc., and you can find me online. And I'm just praying that we can continue to make more and more content.
Ashley Elaine, God bless you. Thank you for joining us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. You're a bright light, and please come back and visit us very soon.
Thank you so much.
And as we cover the latest in the news, always good to start out a show with hope and to know that there is hope out there, that there are industries that are turning back to the Lord and independent filmmaking. It's great that we have so much streaming and so many different outlets now and new companies in this new realm of new media. Thanks be to God to get that message out there and to share great novels from the pages and not only reading them, but putting them on the big silver screen. Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing at the top of the hour. We'll go through some of what President Trump said on Truth Social. Also, we'll get to you a playback of this morning. Vice President J.D. Vance all the way over in Azerbaijan, also Armenia, and recently in Italy for those Olympics that have been underway since Friday. Thank you to All Family Pharmacy. It is a great place to go for off-label generic medications. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Code RSBN10 for 10% off all of your essential medications. We know that the terrible weather as of late has led to delays in travel and also deliveries and your basic medications, so you cannot get caught without having them on hand, stocked up and ready to go. And with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, very easy to travel with these life-saving medications, from antibiotics to antivirals, Tamiflu, ivermectin, mebendazole, NAD+, methylene blue, hydrochloroquine, amongst emergency medical kits. Again, you could take these on the road with you if you're going on vacation or for a work trip. All you have to do is get this reviewed from a U.S. licensed doctor on the other end. They will sign that pharmaceutical note, get it to you, and guess what? No insurance, no problem, no red tape, no bureaucracy, no hassle, no waiting lines, no urgent care lines, as we've seen those out the door in cold and flu season. Choose freedom, choose the right pharmacy. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And go ahead and scan that QR code there now for code RSBN10 for 10% off life-saving medications. And then there's also angelpace.com in case you need a great gift for Valentine's Day this weekend for guys and gals. Visit the miracle that is angelpace.com, the original miracle cream, vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals, a personal favorite of mine. Also the orange option, wonderful to have this year because it's vitamin C infused. Again, non-GMO, no chemicals, a natural facial spray as well to paint the town red. Not only good during Valentine's Day weekend, but year around. Experience, again, the miracle of this company. Christian owned. They hire veterans. They're based in Spring, Texas, off of the Gulf of America. Angelpace.com. Thank you for joining us on the right side of history. At 17 minutes after the hour, we are going through what President Trump is talking about on a daily basis on that great application there, Truth Social. And you know what's interesting about President Trump? He's been saying roughly the same things for nearly 40 years about how America was being ripped off on a global level. And back in 1987, when Ronald Reagan, the 40th president of the United States, slapped a 100% tariff on Japan, our dear friends overseas, who recently had an election on Sunday, the Liberal Democrat Party doing very well. And don't you worry, let not your heart be troubled, because they may be liberal Democrats over there, but that's actually the right-wing populist movement in Japan. So they now have a 2/3 majority, and they are making Japan great again as we seek to make America great again. But President Trump from 1987 detailing the issues that matter most for manufacturing and the populist movement and fighting for the middle class right here in America.
When I see a total ripoff of this country by Japan, where they literally have no defense budget, where we have to borrow money from them in order to get them oil and defend the Persian Gulf, where most of the oil goes to Japan and other countries, not us. We get 4% of our oil. When I see Kuwait, a total ripoff. We're bringing the Bridgeton. You remember the Bridgeton? Their oil minister sat back and he laughed at how much money he's going to make. Why aren't we getting some of that money? Why aren't we getting it? They're taking in billions and billions of dollars, and we can't even land a helicopter on Kuwaiti soil. You tell me that's right. Saudi Arabia, they wouldn't even be there except for us. And in Saudi Arabia, we couldn't even use their minesweepers, Phil. You know it. We said, could we use your minesweepers? Ours are old, outdated, not worth a damn. They said, no, you can't use our minesweepers to protect the Persian Gulf. I mean, it's a disgrace. What's going on?
There are many other countries and taking tremendous advantage of this, including NATO. If you look at the payments that we're making to NATO, they're totally disproportionate with everybody else's, and it's ridiculous. As far as other causes that are near and dear, this is the cause, because if we can solve this, then we're able to take care of something that I consider to be ultimately of ultimate importance, and that is the homeless situation, that is the farmers, that is the sick. We don't have any money. This country is busted. And it's busted because we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing. If we had business ability in this country, we'd be making lots of profit, so-called surplus profit. And that profit, that money, could be going to defend and I literally mean defend our homeless and our poor and our sick and our farmers. And that's where we ought to be spending the money, not giving it to countries that don't give a damn for us to start off with. We don't give anything to our farmers. Our farmers are dying. There's no question about it. Farms that were in for generations and families, they're being taken away. The homeless are all over the streets of the major cities, the sick and the problems, and yet we'll give billions of dollars in defending countries that have 5 times more money than we can ever hope to have. It's ridiculous.
And President Trump continues with that same strategy and stalwart common sense as a real estate developer, watching what's going on with our friends just to the north or to the east if you live in Detroit, Michigan. With cut number 2, as everyone knows, President Trump stating on Truth Social, the country of Canada has treated the United States very unfairly for decades now. And with that, things are turning around in the United States of America, and fast. But imagine Canada building a massive bridge between Ontario and Michigan. They own both the Canada and the United States side, and of course built it with virtually no United States content. President Barack Hussein Obama stupidly gave them a waiver so they could get around the Buy American Act and not use any American products, including our steel. Now, the Canadian government expects me as President of the United States to permit them to just take advantage of America. But what does the United States of America get? Absolutely nothing. Ontario won't even put U.S. spirits, beverages, and other alcoholic products on their shelves, and they are absolutely prohibited from doing so. And now, on top of everything else, Prime Minister Carney wants to make a deal with China, which will eat Canada alive. We'll just get the leftovers, and I don't think so. The first thing China will do is terminate all ice hockey being played in Canada and permanently eliminate the Stanley Cup. The tariffs Canada charges us for our dairy products have for many years been unacceptable, putting our farmers at great financial risk. I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we have given them. And also importantly, Canada treats the United States with the fairness and respect that we deserve. We will start negotiations immediately. And with all that we have given them, we should own perhaps at least one half of this asset. The revenues generated because of the U.S. market will be astronomical. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Of course, there you can see a picture of that bridge, and I have seen it with my own eyes myself, and it's unbelievable what the prior administration, Barack Hussein Obama, did to affect the sovereignty of the United States of America. Very sad, but this president focused on changing that very rapidly. Now, cut number 3, we are still dealing with open borders from the last administration. Thank God they're closed now. But when you ask the why of ICE and why federal law enforcement simply enforcing Title VIII with our local and state partners, President Trump and the White House releasing cut number 3, this illegal alien video detailing the difficulties that exist.
Now take a look. This is exclusive dash cam video that is now the subject of several law enforcement investigations, shows the moment a red semi-truck plowed into a number of vehicles on the westbound 10 freeway in Ontario just after 1 p.m. yesterday. The CHP told the LA Times the driver of this big rig is a 21-year-old man who is now under arrest on suspicion of driving under the influence of drugs. A total of 4 semis were involved and also 4 passenger vehicles, one of them exploding in flames. 3 people were killed and 4 others were taken to local hospitals. This horrific crash happened just east of the 15 freeway and shut down all westbound lanes for more than 12 hours. Thousands of drivers were trapped in the gridlock just as the evening commute was getting underway. It also happened near the Ontario airport, so the crash likely delayed people that were trying to get to their flights.
And that's just north of Los Angeles, California, in Ontario, California. And perhaps one of the many reasons why now you have to pass a CDL or any driver's exam in Florida in the language of English. And that began yesterday. So California way behind compared to other states when it comes to public safety. As we await Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing at the top of the hour. Cut number 4, President Trump and this administration very impressed with and rooting for Team USA as hockey is getting underway.
I mean, this is being able to represent the U.S. at this stage in the Olympics is one of the greatest honors that I've ever had. So I'm truly grateful to be here representing the red, white, and blue.
I think it kind of means the world. It's really like a whirlwind of emotions. Flying here this morning, hanging out in the village all day, and then getting fitted for our clothes, and just meeting athletes, and then coming here and practicing. And now it's all like, oh my gosh, like day one's over. Like it's kind of crazy. So. Really enjoying the experience so far and having a lot of fun.
God bless all our athletes over there in Milan and Cortina, right against those Dolomites in northern Italy. Thank you as well to mypillow.com/RSBN. It's the mattress and topper sale happening right now for as low as $99.99 with a promo code that's very easy to remember. RSBN, plus free shipping on your entire order. If you'd like to call them, please feel free to do so. Call today. Do not delay. What a great team that Mike Lindell has all the way up in the great state of Minnesota. 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network with mypillow.com/RSBN. Code RSBN right now for savings. Some of my favorite, the My Pillow 1.0 to the My Slippers, the My Coffee. Oh, it's a great way to get a better night's rest and have an easier morning with all of the wonderful products that Mike Lindell has. In fact, over 2,000 right there waiting for you at mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you to the great CEO of MyPillow, Mike Lindell, who also happens to be a Republican gubernatorial candidate for Minnesota. And God knows they can use the help and common sense there in a wonderful state like Minnesota. Also, if you like what you see, we are your election headquarters for midterms 2026. Also your go-to live desk and rally network. Support us right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. RSBnetwork.com/donate. Also text RSBN to 801-801. If you want to throw the technology out the window, I know sometimes it's fun to do. Write that check or money order to 1550-1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for supporting us right here on the right side of history as we cover the latest from your 45th and 47th president, your 50th vice president, their amazing spouses representing America on a global scale. And right there, that 119th Congress, will the government be funded past Friday the 13th? Oh my goodness, we will watch closely as that is underway. Debating on the left, the Democrats, they don't want to fund DHS. They want to try to create a narrative for the midterms. And what about on the right, the Save America Act? Can Leader Thune get to that 60-vote threshold there in the United States Senate? Speaking of throwing technology out the window, cut number 5. Do you remember the AOL dial-up and You've Got Mail? Well, the Office of the President and the communications team reminding us of that as this administration working overtime to make America great again.
You've got mail.
whitehouse.gov/join for all the newsletters and updates there, in a cute way of showing how you can do just that online. At the bottom of the hour, we're also focused on Trump accounts and how that will relate to your taxes. And I could talk over this, Mr. Producer, if you share that there. As you can find, the Trump accounts jumpstarts the American dream. So if you just text there 4547, you can work on filling out that form today and giving your child a jumpstart to the American dream. Fill out your form 4547 to make your election for the 2026 tax year. So here we go. Let's make this next generation even more prosperous than before. We have a serious issue in this country. We need to be making more of us. And as a result of that, perhaps these Trump accounts, through the private and public partnerships and the generosity of the Dell Corporation and Michael and Susan Dell, can jumpstart that very plan for you and your family, with pro-family policies being addressed here in this administration. Also, there have been some great testimonies on Capitol Hill, right, left, and center, and our federal government through ICE, through Border Patrol, and many other agencies giving their testimony as of the last several days, and Todd Lyons doing just that with cut number 7 before a panel and hearing in the United States Capitol.
Under the leadership of President Trump and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, the men and women of ICE have been empowered to do exactly what they're trained to do: arrest and remove illegal aliens and criminals from our communities. We are enhancing public safety, securing our national security, and finally restoring integrity to the immigration system that had been allowed to collapse. We have supercharged our partnerships with state and local law enforcement, empowering officers around the country through the 287G program to help ICE identify and remove criminal aliens. Those partnerships have increased more than 900% since President Trump took office, and our communities are safer for it. I am also proud of our agency's unprecedented hiring campaign that led to hiring of more than 12,000 officers and special agents in less than a year, and more than 222,000 individuals submitted applications. This expansion of a well-trained and well-vetted workforce will help further ICE's abilities to execute President's and Secretary's bold agenda. Before discussing our broader operations, I must address the situation in Minnesota and the dangers that ICE agents and officers face nationwide. While the investigations remain ongoing, I'm encouraged that some Minnesota officials are finally signaling the willingness to cooperate with ICE. But let me be clear, promises are not enough. We need action. In the wake of the unprecedented border crisis of the previous administration, ICE has stepped into the breach to enforce the law. This commitment has a cost. We are facing the deadliest operating environment in our agency's history. In fiscal year 2025, death threats against ICE personnel increased more than 8,000%. Assaults on officers have skyrocketed over 1,400%. One officer in Minnesota had his finger bitten off by a protester, egged on by elected officials characterizing our officers as Gestapo or secret police. The families of ICE personnel have been made to feel unsafe in their homes. I know this firsthand because my own family was targeted. But let me send a message to anyone who thinks they can intimidate us. You will fail. Despite these perils, our officers continue to execute their mission with unwavering resolve, and we are only getting started. ICE remains committed to the fundamental principles that those who illegally enter our country must be held accountable. Since the beginning of the second Trump administration, we have achieved historic results. From January 20th, 2025 through January 20th, 2026, ICE has conducted nearly 379,000 arrests. Among those arrests were more than 7,000 suspected gang members and over 1,400 known as suspected terrorists. The president tasked us with mass deportation, and we are fulfilling that mandate. Thanks to the resources provided by this Congress, we are ramping up detention capabilities and removal flights daily. In the last year alone, we conducted over 475,000 removals. It's a brutal reality that criminal immigration today is organized by sophisticated, ruthless, transnational criminal organizations. These include cartels and transnational gangs President Trump has rightly designated as foreign terrorist organizations. The only way to defeat them is to destroy their revenue. Within Homeland Security investigations, our special agents are delivering critical outcomes in the fight against transnational crime. We are seizing fentanyl before it kills our children and dismantling the networks that poison our communities. In FY25 alone, we seized more than 2.5 million pounds of narcotics, a 50% increase from the previous year and a critical blow to transnational organization groups everywhere. HSI criminal arrests are at the highest point in history.
The dedicated men and women of our federal government working hard to secure Title IX enforcement at ICE, the Border Patrol, and we will go through even more videos with them giving of their time, talent, and treasure to protect this nation. Thank you to angelpace.com for their ability, their sponsorship, so we can broadcast all of this for you so you know the truth and can make a decision for yourself. And this time of year, it's great to have their Vitamin B Original Miracle Cream. I use it myself, especially during the winter months. Vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals, and you'll have your skin glowing. Literally, you go down to these other stores and you might find other lotions, other creams with chemicals in them, and this does not have that. It's just God's nature created in a bottle and good for your skin and your overall health, especially the orange option, vitamin C infused, so that you could fight back against cold and flu season. That natural facial spray will do wonders as well. Valentine's Day is this weekend. I know I have to remind the gentlemen out there, make sure to get a present for your significant other. But great products for guys and gals. Experience the miracle of this Christian-owned company. They hire veterans. They're based in Spring, Texas, right off the Gulf of America. It's angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. And with storms and severe weather disrupting travel and commerce, deliveries, access to care, many Americans might not be prepared to have these life-saving meds right on hand with them, but allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, changing that with code RSBN10 for 10% off now. Scan that QR code as I share with you 300 plus essential medications for your home use or for traveling on the road. Imagine having that emergency medical kit or even that blood pressure medication if needed, if there's a storm or we see something like we saw outside of Nashville, Tennessee, with the trees down and roads blocked because of ice storms. We don't want any of that. So get your antibiotics, antivirals, NAD+, methylene blue, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, and so much more right there at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. They make it possible. Patients ordering prescription medications, off-label generics that are life-saving with no need for the insurance industry to be involved. In fact, just reach out to a licensed doctor who reviews the request, writes the prescription, and sends it right back to your door. So you don't have any waiting times, no insurance roadbacks, no last-minute hiccups. And of course, you can avoid then urgent care with the lines out the door this time of year. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN with code RSBN10. Choose freedom, choose the right pharmacy. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. As Joseph Edlow also giving testimony in that hearing alongside Todd Lyons. And again, these people who are choosing to defend their neighbors, their families, their communities from criminal illegal aliens.
Over the past year, USCIS has made nearly 33,000 fraud referrals to law enforcement, a 138% increase over previous years. We conducted thousands of site visits to homes and workplaces and thousands of social media checks to ensure aliens aren't espousing anti-American sentiment. Moreover, our fraud detection and national security team completed over 21,000 investigations, identifying fraud in approximately 65% of those cases. In Operation Twin Shield in Minneapolis-St. Paul back in the fall, we uncovered marriage fraud, visa misuse, and student visa abuses, leading to denials of immigration benefits, arrests, and removal proceedings. This work led to Operation Paris, where we continue re-examining thousands of refugee cases in Minnesota, conducting thorough background checks and in-person reviews. We've also strengthened our vetting policies. If someone falsely claims U.S. citizenship to get a public benefit or try to vote, we hold them accountable through denial of citizenship or loss of immigration status. We've tightened screening to determine whether claimed marriages and family relationships are legitimate. And we've changed regulations to employment authorization is no longer automatically extended. Now we require more frequent renewals so that we can vet aliens more frequently and ensure that they deserve to remain in the country. Additionally, we've taken action to end the exploitation of immigration programs. Mass humanitarian parole programs were being abused by the prior administration. So we've restored them to Congress's original intent, allowing those benefits on a case-by-case basis. Secretary Noem also ended decades of temporary protected status for several countries, returning the program to what Congress intended: temporary protection, not permanent status in the United States. Moreover, this administration is doing more to ensure the integrity of our elections. We enhanced the SAVE program so states can verify citizenship of those on their voter rolls more effectively. Since January 2025, we've processed over 58 million queries, and 27 states are participating. Additionally, federal agencies ran nearly 206 million SAVE queries last year to identify fraud and preserve public assistance benefits for lawful U.S. residents and citizens. We're also putting American taxpayers and communities and workers first. We affirmed that aliens should be self-reliant, not dependent on public assistance, and that their sponsors are liable for the cost of public benefits that they access. The Department of Homeland Security is also working to rescind the 2022 public charge rule, restoring our discretion to determine if an alien will rely on government assistance. We've proposed protecting American jobs by prioritizing H-1B visas for higher skilled, higher paid workers so that companies can't use those visas merely as a way to get cheaper non-citizen labor. We've also streamlined agricultural visa processing to better support American farmers. A major milestone was implementing the One Big Beautiful Bill, which added new fees for certain immigration processes. USCIS collects those fees, but only retains a small amount of the money, while the rest goes to other agencies and deficit reduction. Finally, protecting the American people is at the heart of everything we do. After the attack on 2 brave service members of the National Guard last November, Secretary Noem directed us to review immigration benefits for aliens from high-risk countries.
Rodney Scott also joining in on that hearing as we're looking live there at the White House. We'll take you there at the top of the hour for Karoline Leavitt, White House press secretary and superstar, to quote President Trump, as we get a great view of wintry weather and a mix of winning in the nation's capital. I love the new flagpoles. They are tremendous on the north lawn and south lawns of the glorious White House. And there, of course, the main entrance to the north side of the White House, overlooking Lafayette Park in our nation's capital. Cut number 9, Mr. Producer, we had Rodney Scott again testifying to that congressional hearing.
CBP has spent the last year rebuilding what was an intentionally broken border. As I informed Congress in 2021 and again in 2023, the open border policies of the Biden administration all but eliminated any meaningful border and it replaced it with a porous geographic line defined by record high encounters with illegal aliens, overwhelmed facilities, and a workforce that was stretched so far beyond their capabilities that hostile nations and the cartels exploited our border at will. That all changed on January 20th, 2025, under the leadership of President Trump. We have now implemented effective policies, established unified priorities and objectives across all federal departments, and empowered our workforce to do their jobs by simply enforcing the laws that already exist. We have imposed consequences for those who break our laws, the laws that this body enacted. And today, the United States, because of these efforts, enjoys the most secure border in our nation's history. But this progress did not happen by accident. It's a result of a comprehensive approach to border security. We ended catch and release, we prioritized detention and removal authorities, and we sent a clear message that illegal entry into the United States will not be tolerated. And the numbers speak for themselves. We have achieved record low illegal crossings between ports of entry. Border Patrol apprehensions along the southwest border totaled over 90,000 for the entire year. That's a number that used to represent a single month under the Biden administration. Daily encounters have dropped by 95%, averaging about 250 per day, compared to 5,000 a day during the Biden administration. Our increased enforcement also resulted in the seizure of over 617,000 pounds of illicit narcotics. That's nationwide, an 8% increase over the prior year. This included nearly 11,000 pounds of fentanyl and more than 186,000 pounds of methamphetamines. This is what having a secure border looks like.
Thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN for all of your evening needs and morning needs. On both ends, you have over 2,000 products to choose from, with the mattress and topper sale going off the shelves very quickly for as low as $99.99 with promo code RSBN, plus free shipping on your entire order. Call today and do not delay. It's 800-836-7566. Mike Lindell, the great CEO of MyPillow, wants to make your night a little bit more enjoyable and your day a little bit more pep with the wonderful My Coffee, one of my favorites. Also those My Slippers for in and around the house, and heck, even some people wear them outside of the home. They are that comfortable. In addition to the Giza Dream Sheets, some of the best cotton in the country, off of the Mediterranean, and everything made right here in the good old US of A in Minnesota, where Mike Lindell is running for governor. Support Mike and Right Side Broadcasting Network. Shop now. Again, over 2,000 products at mypillow.com/RSBN. And I have to tell you that MyPillow 1.0, that changed my sleep habits, my patterns, and for an even better, deeper sleep. It's all about the REM sleep cycles. It helps a lot. So I highly recommend these great products there at mypillow.com/RSBN. Also, we know that the Punxsutawney Phil, that famous gopher, whatever he is, that comes out of the tree branch and the stump, is very sad about 6 more weeks of winter. And we know with all of the storms and all of those delays, some people not having these essential medications on hand. So choose freedom and the right pharmacy to get you those Tamiflu and antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, and so much more at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. A licensed doctor reviews your request, writes the pharmaceutical note, and do not worry if you do not have insurance, because you cannot go in another storm without something like Tamiflu on hand for cold and flu season. Or think about this, if you need the blood pressure medication, what if you don't have it and then the roads get iced over and all the trees that went down that we saw in our very lovely and friendly city of Nashville, Tennessee? You don't want that to happen in your neck of the woods. So allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, making sure you have these life-saving medications at an affordable rate. RSBN 10 is the code for 10% off right now. Feel free to visit today and get these emergency medical kits and over 300 essential medications, as you see there, that you can have at home or even travel with during the winter season. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. No waiting rooms, no insurance roadblocks, no urgent care visits. It makes a lot of sense to go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Again, RSBN 10 is the code for 10% off. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history with Secretary Lutnick. He's usually the guy that's laughing in the background at President Trump's jokes and laughing with him because there's so much truth in comedy, and something that has changed our entire world, the internet, something that Vice President Al Gore claimed to invent at one point. And did you know, during Secretary Lutnick's speech, the World Economic Forum, there was one person booing him, and it was the former Vice President of the United States, to where Howard Lutnick responded, "Really, Al? You're going to boo me during this?" Because you could see him right off of the stage. It's amazing to see how far the left has fallen and failed over the course of the last few years. But Secretary Lutnick, speaking to another congressional panel on the internet broadband with cut number 10.
Under the Biden administration, Louisiana was tasked to spend more than $1.3 billion to do exactly what it's doing now for under $500 million. That means in Louisiana alone, the American taxpayers saved more than $800 million, delivering better economic results, all while advancing the same performance standards that you have set. We are delivering for the state of Louisiana and all American taxpayers. Under the benefit of the bargain reforms, Louisiana reopened its bidding competition, embraced technology neutrality, and drove costs down dramatically. Under the Biden administration fiber mandate, the cost to serve a single house in Louisiana was $120,000 of fiber to connect one single house. Today, the highest cost location in the state of Louisiana is closer to $7,000, with an average cost of $4,000. And they're doing this all while achieving universal coverage. This is the difference between a program designed around waste and abuse and a program designed around value.
And a very important issue to continue to watch, as internet access, very important, especially in rural areas and those other areas that are not being as well served. So we'll watch that story as the Vice President of the United States traveling the world. Italy for the Olympics, the opening ceremonies with Secretary Rubio, their lovely spouses, and also to Armenia and Azerbaijan, and building out the peace process in an area of the world where East meets West and where borders have changed as of the last 2 decades, and Christian denominations and countries really being affected by that. But the Vice President outside of Air Force Two on a couple of different crucial issues, beginning with Greenland and cut number 11.
Well, look, it's very early in the Greenland talks. I know that we've been working quite a bit on this over the last few weeks, but it's just very simple. Greenland is very important to the national security of the United States of America. I do think that some of our allies have underinvested in Arctic security. And if we're going to invest in Arctic security, if we're going to basically pay a lot of money and be on the hook for protecting this massive landmass, I think it's only reasonable for the United States to get some benefit out of that. And that's going to be the focus of the negotiations here over the next few months.
And the Vice President, J.D. Vance, is number 50 in a long line of people who have served in that office. And he is the first amongst them to visit Armenia and, in turn, the Armenian Genocide Memorial. And we know in certain communities here in the United States, it's better understood than in other parts, especially in Los Angeles, where many Armenian Americans do live, in that horrible Christian genocide that really has not gained much attention until this administration. And the Vice President touching on that with cut number 12.
So why did you feel it was important to visit the Armenian Genocide Memorial today? Does that mean that you are officially recognizing the Armenian Genocide and all the lives that were lost?
Well, we're going to visit some important sites to Azerbaijan tomorrow, and when we talked to the Armenians, they said this is a very important site for us. And obviously, I'm the first vice president to ever visit Armenia. They asked us to visit the site. Obviously, it's a very terrible thing that happened a little over 100 years ago, and something that is just very, very important to them culturally. So I thought, out of a sign of respect, both for the victims, but also for the Armenian government that's been a very important partner for us in the region, to Prime Minister Pashinyan, I wanted to go and pay a visit and pay my respects.
And the Vice President of the United States there again, he is overseas, working with a number of different officials in Armenia and Azerbaijan to bolster up those peace through strength agreements, trade deals, and ultimately having many of our good minerals and vice versa on a reciprocal trade basis going back and forth as we continue these partnerships throughout Eastern Europe, Western Asia, and throughout the Middle East as they sit just north of Iran and a rogue regime that seeks to bring chaos to the world, and a place that is ever changing, as we pray for those who are revolting against the Iranian Republican Guard and the mullahs and the tyrannical government that has really taken advantage of the Persian culture for the last 50 years or so. and a revolution that we saw back in 1979 that has brought just disaster and a very closed-off society to the Middle East. So this is a very strategic partnership on this trip with the Vice President. We also do have playback of his comments from this morning, if we are ready to run that, Mr. Producer. And as we get that ready for your viewing pleasure, we will have Karoline Leavitt scheduled for the top of the hour to hold a press briefing right there at the James S. Brady briefing room in the West Wing. But don't be a panickin', because we are winning and we're not slowing down. According to the White House, under President Trump's leadership, the administration smashing through the chaos and destruction by Democrats, unleashing the most aggressive pursuit of the America First agenda in history. While the fake news and the radical left conclude to distract, depress, and divide, they're simply lying to mask the undeniable truth that America is safer, stronger, and richer, and more secure than at any point in decades. Don't take the bait. New victories pour in daily as President Trump delivers on his promise and rebuilds the foundation for long-term success in the greatest nation on earth. Here's a few big points to highlight, but before we get to that, we'll head over to the Vice President, J.D. Vance, his comments from this morning, and then to Karoline Leavitt.
Ladies and gentlemen, President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Mr. Ilham Aliyev, and Vice President of the United States of America, Mr. J.D. Vance, will now sign the Charter on Strategic Partnership between the government of the Republic of Azerbaijan and the government of the United States of America. Statements for the media by the President of Azerbaijan and the Vice President of the United States.
Dear Mr. Vice President, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a big honor for us to welcome Mr. Vice President on official visit to Azerbaijan. We had a very good conversation today, covering many issues of our bilateral agenda. We are very grateful to Trump-Vance administration for a very positive attitude to Azerbaijan. Today's ceremony of signing of Charter on Strategic Partnership is a reflection of the very hard work which our teams conducted for 6 months. 6 months ago, historical meeting in Washington with President Trump, and signing a document to establish the working group to elaborate the Charter on Strategic Partnership opened the new opportunities for bilateral cooperation. For us, it's a great honor to be a strategic partner to the most powerful country of the world, United States of America. We're also very grateful to President Trump, Vice President Vance, and their team for their contribution to peace in the Caucasus. Last August, Armenia and Azerbaijan in the White House, in the presence of President Trump, initialed peace agreement, and also we signed joint declaration on peace, which President Trump signed also as a witness. And for these 6 months, we already live in peace. We are learning to live in peace, and we're very grateful to the United States government for this great contribution. Not only we lifted all the restrictions on the transit of cargo through Azerbaijan to Armenia, but we ourselves started to supply oil products to Armenia, thus beginning actually trade and beginning cooperation. One of the important results of Trump-Vance administration's efforts in our region is implementation of Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, TRIP, which will not only connect two parts of parts of Azerbaijan, but also will be a very reliable, safe, and large-scale transportation corridor which will connect Asia with Europe through the territory of Azerbaijan, Armenia, and other neighbors, thus strengthening what has been achieved on the peace track in the region. Today, relations between the United States and Azerbaijan are entering absolutely new phase. In the charter which we signed with our dear guest, there are different directions of our cooperation. We will continue to work closely on the issues related to security, anti-terror operations. We will continue to work on the issues related to energy security. Azerbaijan today provides energy security with its natural gas resources to 16 countries. 11 of them are NATO members, the allies of the United States. Connectivity, as I already mentioned, with TRIP will be another contribution to peace, development, and cooperation in the region. We are also opening the chapter of cooperation in defense sales, which is also very promising, and of course, AI data centers, which today is part of our bilateral agenda and where we already have preliminary results in interaction with the leading American companies. In other words, today's visit of Vice President Vance can be called a historical from point of view of hosting our friend and guest, and from the point of view of the substance of negotiations and the strategic charter which have been signed. Once again, Mr. Vice President, welcome to Azerbaijan.
Well, thank you, President Aliyev, and I want to send the best regards from the President of the United States, both to you personally, but also to the people of Azerbaijan. This has, for a very long time, I think, been an underappreciated but very, very, very important partnership and friendship for the United States of America. I think many Americans may not know that, for example, the Azerbaijanis were some of the last to leave in Afghanistan. They were very supportive in the global war on terrorism. They fought alongside United States Marines in Afghanistan, and in fact earned a reputation as being some of the toughest and fiercest troops anywhere in the world. And so we wanted to come today to show our appreciation for this friendship, but also to really turn the page and to open up a next chapter. And I think what will be a stronger and even better relationship under President Trump's leadership and under President Aliyev's leadership here in Azerbaijan. There's a lot to talk about and there's a lot to announce. We could spend, I think, all day up here talking about some of the great things that are happening. We're going to ship some new boats to Azerbaijan to help you all with some of your territorial waters protection. We're proud to announce, and I believe I was one of the very first to fly along the new Trump Road for international peace and prosperity that will connect the two separate parts of Azerbaijan. And our hope is that that will build the kind of economic and natural resource and critical mineral cooperation that'll make it possible to really make this incredible peace agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia stick, because we know that one of the great things that can prevent fighting and prevent wars from breaking out is when two peoples culturally exchange with one another, when they spend time working with one another, and of course when they create great prosperity by working together as opposed to fighting one another. Now, on the point of the peace agreement, I really do think that President Aliyev deserves a great amount of credit. I was, of course, just in Armenia earlier today. And without the leadership of the Prime Minister of Armenia and the President of Azerbaijan, we would not have gotten that peace agreement done. And really three people, I think, created historic peace. The President of this country, the Prime Minister of Armenia, and of course the President of the United States, working together, created peace where previously there was war. And I think in the future will create prosperity where once there was only fighting and conflict. That is an amazing testament to the President's leadership, but also to President Aliyev's leadership as well. And again, this is the sort of thing that the President of the United States has committed our foreign policy to. Why should we be fighting one another when we can engage in commerce with one another, when we can build partnerships with one another? And I think that partnership, the partnership of the United States and Azerbaijan, will lead to greater peace and prosperity in the region. It will lead to more access to more markets for the workers of the United States of America. And it's just going to create a much better world where people are engaging in commerce with one another rather than fighting with one another. And I think that is the core of the President of the United States' mission and foreign policy, is this recognition that we can organize around shared interests and actually build something great with one another. We signed a strategic partnership with it, which I think will formalize that partnership and make it very clear that the United States-Azerbaijan relationship is one that will stick, is one that will continue to produce great fruits for both of our peoples. And just on a personal note, I'm incredibly pleased to be here. I was telling my staff before we landed that other than President Trump, the only leader in the world that has really good relations with both the Turks and the Israelis is President Aliyev. And I said, so that means, one, the food must be really good here, or two, he must be really charming. I can confirm that he's very charming. We're going to find out in a little bit about the food, and I'm sure it will be great. But let me just say that the Second Lady and I are very pleased to be having dinner later today. And as I understand it, the Vice President of Azerbaijan is also the President's wife. And hopefully that doesn't give the Second Lady any ideas. But I just want to say that on a personal note, but also because of the friendship of our great nations, I'm very honored to be here and very honored to continue the discussion. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
The Vice President, J.D. Vance, from earlier today, with the Azerbaijan leadership and agreements being reinforced and the Peace Through Strength agenda on full display. Thank you to our sponsors here on the right side of history. With storms and disruptions happening across the country recently, so essential to have these life-saving medications on hand. With travel backed up, deliveries, and even access to care, many Americans reminded how important it is to have these life-saving prescriptions ready to go. Choose freedom, choose the right pharmacy. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10 for 10% off now. Imagine already having a flu medication kit at home, or even blood pressure medication when the next storm hits, literally or even figuratively speaking. And All Family Pharmacy does just that with Tamiflu and ivermectin, antibiotics, antivirals, to hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, and so many more, including mebendazole. Great to have on hand for you. 300 plus essential medications, emergency medical kits that patients can receive from a licensed U.S. physician, writing the prescription on the other side, reviewing the order, and sent right to your door. So it's the height of convenience mixed with going against the traditional pharmacy that might be in the pocket of big pharmacy. We know that issue has been crucial in states and at the federal level, and sometimes they simply don't prescribe these life-saving medications listed there on your screen. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, your go-to, where no waiting rooms, no insurance roadblocks, no last-minute urgent care visits will be bothering you, but rather having those great essential medications when you're sick, ready to go on hand, whether at home or traveling. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Scan the QR code there for 10% off. RSBN10 at allfamilypharmacy.com. Thank you for being loyal viewers to your go-to Live Desk, Rally Network, and your election headquarters for the midterms. Support us right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, rsbnetwork.com/donate, or text RSBN to 801-801. Or send that check or money order to 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830, the home of Auburn University and Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you for supporting us here as we get ready for the superstar, the press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, in the James S. Brady briefing room moments from now. To touch on a number of highlights, the White House sending an email regarding all of the successes and reminding folks you don't need to be a panican, but rely on the great work happening in the United States of America right now, especially with this push toward voter ID. So important as we look at the Save America Act that could eventually be voted on this week. That 60-vote threshold trying to be met by Leader Thune in the White House there, or on Capitol Hill, so that will ultimately go to the president's desk if passed. And of course, the Democrats on the other side of the aisle really digging in those heels, not wanting to fund DHS. And will the government be funded past Friday the 13th? We will see what happens there on Capitol Hill. But in the meantime, the highlights of what's happening here with voter ID, overwhelmingly popular and literally among everyone except Democrat politicians in Washington, D.C. The White House releasing that President Trump has been unequivocal. Nothing is more important than the fundamental integrity and security of our elections. That's why the Trump administration has repeatedly called on Congress to save America by passing the Save America Act, common sense legislation that requires voters to present photo ID and implementing other critical measures to protect federal elections from fraud and abuse. Yet despite overwhelmingly popular support across every demographic, radical left Democrat politicians continue to block these reforms, placing partisan politics above the clear will of the American people, including their own voters, and above all, the basic security of our elections. Voter ID is extremely popular with Americans, and polling has consistently shown this. It's not even close. Including Democrats, independents, whites, blacks, Latinos support voter ID across our great country. The Pew Research Center stating that 83% of Americans favor requiring all voters to show government-issued photo ID to vote, including 95% of Republicans and 71% of Democrats. Just 16% of Americans are in opposition to this. So it's something that's uniting all Americans, regardless of ideology or demographics or different backgrounds. Gallup, 84% of Americans support requiring photo ID to vote, including 98% of Republicans, 84% of independents, and 67% of Democrats. Separately, 83% support requiring proof of citizenship when registering to vote for the first time. Additional surveys include from the Neapolitan News Service and the Center Square consistently show extraordinary support for voter ID. CNN reporter Harry Enton stating that the bottom line is this: voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial at all by party and is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree, and you might have seen during the Super Bowl, NBC nightly news anchor Tom Lamas, voter ID rules do have wide public support, but the vast majority of Democrats on Capitol Hill oppose them, to quote my colleague there at NBC. So you look at all this, it's very popular. The proof is in the pudding. This isn't a close call. It's time for Congress to act and for Democrat politicians to stop standing in the way of election security. It's common sense, and as we've seen in recent weeks, the Democrats clinging on anything possible to try to create a counter-alternative messaging campaign against Republicans in the midterms, as ICE hammers criminal illegal aliens, according to the White House. This is on top of the shoulders of a stock market exploding, with retirement accounts soaring. The Dow Jones Industrial Average shattered 50,000 for the first time ever, with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ also smashing those records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are literally booming under President Trump's growth policies, proving the economy is roaring back stronger than ever. In an unprecedented show of national security as well, the past week, ICE arrested 650 illegal aliens in West Virginia, including a convicted child sex offender, drug pushers, burglars, and fraudsters. And nationwide, ICE continues removing convicted murderers, drug traffickers, sex offenders, child abusers, also domestic abusers, money launderers, and scores of other dangerous criminal illegals. In Minnesota as well, Operation Metro Surge has already overtaken 4,000 criminal illegals off of the streets, and it's not stopping. Also, the agenda for this administration and Republicans as a whole on Capitol Hill, ending the barbaric mutilation of children. Minnesota's largest children's hospital just halted prescriptions of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones for minors, joining a growing list of institutions finally backing down. And the Trump administration's relentless pressure campaign to protect American children. Now, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons came out in opposition to gender mutilation surgeries for children, becoming the first major medical group to do so. Now, court victories also locking in tough immigration enforcement. A federal appeals court just updated and upheld the Trump administration's policy of detaining illegal aliens, validating the strong measures that have driven illegal crossings to historic lows, and sent a crystal clear message. Under President Trump, if you enter illegally, you will be detained and removed. Now, crime drops to a new record low after record high crime across the country under Joe Biden's defund the police era. The murder rate has plunged to a 125-year low across the country as crime falls across the board. Now, according to new data after the Trump administration surged federal resources into crime-plagued Washington, D.C., the district went 3 weeks into the new year before recording its first homicide for the first time. The nation's capital had gone more than 10 days into a new year without a murder in at least 3 decades. Everyday costs continue to moderate here in the United States. The national median rents falling to a 4-year low following 6 consecutive monthly declines, while mortgage affordability has surged to 4-year highs following President Trump's bold action to make home ownership affordable again. PepsiCo announcing price cuts of up to 15% on core brands, and President Trump launching TrumpRx.gov, a transformative new government platform that gives Americans direct access to dramatically lower prices on common high-cost prescription drugs. There's a reason consumer sentiment has spiked to a 6-month high. As border remains sealed up during all of these successes, for an unprecedented 9th straight month, there were 0 illegal border crossings at the southern border, an achievement unparalleled in modern history. Now, these wins aren't happening by accident. They come after President Trump logged the most productive first year of a presidential term in modern history. And President Trump's promise to make America great again, delivering bigger, faster, and harder than ever before. The momentum simply unstoppable, as we're seeing that on a daily basis. Don't be a panikin. America winning again, and more victories are coming, that according to the White House. So we'll watch all of that, including some of the goals of not only passing the Save America Act, God willing, this week, but also to fund the government in a move the Democrats did just late last year that did not favor really anyone in the process. But also, this administration focused on bringing down not only mortgage costs and overall cost and affordability for this country, but the delays and interest and the penalties on credit card, as many Americans face that credit card debt. It's a very real thing. And to cap that at 10%, something this administration looking to do. Now, as we wait for Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing, let's take a quick commercial break for sponsors here on the right side of history. Don't change that dial. We'll be going to the White House very soon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, My Pillow mattresses and My Pillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network as we await Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing in the West Wing in the James S. Brady briefing room, as we've been covering the latest from the Trump White House, both in the federal city, your neck of the woods, and abroad, as the Vice President of the United States enjoying some travel in Italy, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and really pushing the agenda of peace through strength and building on what have been some newly drawn borders post-USSR and where East meets West in Eastern Europe, Western Russia, as well as we look towards the future of peace and security throughout the world, something that's been a big highlight in this administration. The vice president touching on that with a couple of different issues, including cut number 11 and any updates happening on Greenland, as the Arctic body is crucial to the national defense of the United States of America and North America as a whole.
Well, look, it's very early in the Greenland talks. I know that we've been working quite a bit on this over the last few weeks, but it's just very simple. Greenland is very important to the national security of the United States of America. I do think that some of our allies have underinvested in Arctic security, and if we're going to invest in Arctic security, if we're going to basically pay a lot of money and be on the hook for protecting this massive landmass, I think it's only reasonable for the United States to get some benefit out of that, and that's going to be the focus of the negotiations here over the next few months.
And the vice president also the first to visit that nation in his capacity as the 50th vice president of the United States. In turn, also that Armenian Genocide Memorial, a big issue for many Americans here of Armenian descent, given what has taken place there to the Christian community over the decades, especially under the extremism and the totalitarian nature of communism that once ruled the area. So a bright future for those of Armenian and Azerbaijan descent, and of course the coming to peace through those terms between those nations as well, with the help of the White House dating back to the last calendar year. This president as well focused on security for the United States. It really was dating back to going down that golden escalator and securing our border, illegal immigration being the cornerstone of his campaign. If you look at the last few presidents, they had that as a large part of their agendas as well, including Bill Clinton, the 1995 State of the Union, stating that we are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. And that having a big reception to some like Senator Chuck Schumer, who was in Congress dating back 30 plus years ago, who was in the House chamber for all of that. So it's amazing how they've changed their tune. And perhaps Senator Amy Klobuchar, running for governor of Minnesota, to take the failed governor Tim Walz's spot. Hopefully it's someone else like a Mike Lindell that can actually fix the great state of Minnesota. But 20 years ago, she's running for Congress and stated that she actually did not care for the George W. Bush administration, that in her words, they were too lax on illegal immigration and needed to, her statement, create a border wall or a structure to help stop illegal immigration. So Senator Klobuchar, what happened over the course of the last 2 decades to date? It's interesting how parties can change and certain policy issues pending where the political winds are blowing, but clearly Americans are very happy with a secure border, and especially those who live along the Texas-Mexican border, the California-Mexican border, of course, that of New Mexico and Arizona as well, dealing with those issues. And if you have not done it, pay a visit if you can to our Border Patrol and walk what takes place there in these sectors. It gives you a great amount of respect for it. I had the opportunity to do just that in 2018 and 2019, just south of the Tucson sector. And you see the mountainous regions, especially, where it can get very cold or even very hot, and the tragedy of people coming over, being trafficked, and in certain cases, losing their lives from that arduous journey. But this administration making sure that that does not happen. To quote Border Czar Tom Homan, the president, I myself, no one, including Kristi Noem, wants to see anyone harmed in this process. And that's been very much discussed in all of media as we've been watching over the last several days. But to that clip of the vice president as well, with the ending of the Armenian genocide, to bring light to what took place all those years ago and discrimination that continues to happen in some cases today, the vice president with cut number 12 visiting that during his overseas trip.
So why did you feel it was important to visit the Armenian Genocide Memorial today? Does that mean that you are officially recognizing the Armenian Genocide and all the lives that were lost?
Well, we're going to visit some important sites to Azerbaijan tomorrow, and when we talked to the Armenians, they said this is a very important site for us. And obviously, I'm the first vice president to ever visit Armenia. They asked us to visit the site. Obviously, it's a very terrible thing that happened a little over 100 years ago, and something that's just very, very important to them culturally. So I thought, out of a sign of respect, both for the victims, but also for the Armenian government that's been a very important partner for us in the region, to Prime Minister Pashinyan, I wanted to go and pay a visit and pay my respects.
It's nice to have a change in the executive office of the president and the office of the vice president, where they are consistent on countless issues, including putting America first, and this Trump-Vance team doing that on a daily basis. In case you missed it from earlier, the 1987 video of President Trump with cut number 1 describing that when it came to Japanese currencies being exploited and manipulating those currencies, just like China did a few years ago. President Trump has always been consistent on this for 40 plus years now, as we go back on this throwback of a sense on this Tuesday, February 9th.
When I see a total ripoff of this country by Japan, where they literally have no defense budget, where we have to borrow money from them in order to get them oil and defend the Persian Gulf, where most of the oil goes to Japan and other countries, not us. We get 4% of our oil. When I see Kuwait, a total ripoff. We're bringing the Bridgeton. You remember the Bridgeton? Their oil minister sat back and he laughed at how much money he's going to make. Why aren't we getting some of that money? Why aren't we getting it? They're taking in billions and billions of dollars, and we can't even land a helicopter on Kuwaiti soil. You tell me that's right. Saudi Arabia, they wouldn't even be there except for us. And in Saudi Arabia, we couldn't even use their minesweepers, Phil. You know it. We said, could we use your minesweepers? Ours are old, outdated, not worth a damn. They said, no, you can't use our minesweepers to protect the Persian Gulf. I mean, it's a disgrace. What's going on?
There are many other countries and taking tremendous advantage of this, including NATO. If you look at the payments that we're making to NATO, they're totally disproportionate with everybody else's, and it's ridiculous. As far as other causes that are near and dear, this is the cause, because if we can solve this, then we're able to take care of something that I consider to be ultimately of ultimate importance, and that is the homeless situation, that is the farmers, that is the sick. We don't have any money. We're going, this country is busted. And it's busted because we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing. If we had business ability in this country, we'd be making lots of profit, so-called surplus profit, And that profit, that money, could be going to defend our, and I literally mean defend our homeless and our poor and our sick and our farmers. And that's where we ought to be spending the money, not giving it to countries that don't give a damn for us to start off with. We don't give anything to our farmers. Our farmers are dying. There's no question about it. Farms that were in for generations and families, they're being taken away. The homeless are all over the streets of the major cities, the sick and the problems, and yet we'll give billions of dollars in defending countries that have 5 times more money than we can ever hope to have. It's ridiculous.
And President Trump remaining consistent on that to the present day with cut number 2. As everyone knows, the president stating on True Social the country of Canada has treated the United States very unfairly for decades. Now things are turning around for the United States of America, and very fast. But imagine Canada building a massive bridge between Ontario and Michigan. They own both the Canada and United States side, and of course built it with virtually no U.S. content. President Barack Hussein Obama stupidly gave them a waiver so they could get around and buy the American product or the Buy American Act and not use any products, including our steel. Now, the Canadian government expects me as President of the United States to permit them to just take advantage of America. What does the United States of America get? Absolutely nothing. Ontario won't even put U.S. spirits, beverages, and other alcoholic products on their shelves. They are absolutely prohibited from doing so. And now, on top of everything else, Prime Minister Carney wants to make a deal with China, which will eat Canada alive. We'll just get the leftovers. I don't think so. And the first thing China will do is terminate all ice hockey being played in Canada and permanently eliminate the Stanley Cup. Now, the tariffs Canada charges us for our dairy products have for many years been unacceptable, putting our farmers at great financial risk. I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we have given them. And also importantly, Canada treats the United States with the fairness and respect that we deserve. We will start negotiations immediately. With all that we have given them, we should own perhaps at least 1/2 of this asset. The revenues generated because of the U.S. market will be astronomical. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald John Trump, you could see that there between Ottawa and Michigan. I've seen that bridge myself just outside of Detroit, and something that is an issue for the American sovereignty with our friends who have, yes, been treating us very badly with those tariffs, especially for Minnesota and Wisconsin farmers and the dairy land in particular. But this administration very focused on illegal immigration, as we've seen with the cut number 3 in the video there from another Ontario in Canada to Ontario, California, just north of Los Angeles. And these illegal alien drivers passing CDL tests allegedly, and they don't even speak the language, something Florida has addressed. And as of yesterday, Monday, February 9th, changing that with all licensed drivers, not only CDLs, must pass an English examination in order to obtain a Florida license. Because of things like this happening in California, the administration partnering with those wanting to bring common sense back to the states.
Now take a look. This is exclusive dash cam video that is now the subject of several law enforcement investigations. Shows the moment a red semi plowed into a number of vehicles on the westbound 10 freeway
in Ontario just after 1 p.m. yesterday. The CHP told the LA Times the driver of this big rig is a 21-year-old man who is now under arrest on suspicion of driving under the influence of drugs. A total of 4 semis were involved and also 4 passenger vehicles, one of them exploding in flames. 3 people were killed and 4 others were taken to local hospitals. This horrific crash happened just east of the 15 freeway and shut down all westbound lanes for more than 12 hours. Thousands of drivers were trapped in the gridlock just as the evening commute was getting underway. It also happened near the Ontario airport, so the crash likely delayed people that were trying to get to their flights.
And as we await Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing, there you have a live shot of Capitol Hill and Democrats really dragging their feet and sticking their heels in the sand, if you will, when it comes to the funding of the government, threatening to shut it all down once again over DHS funding. One of their latest moments of being panicans in order to slow down this administration, but they have been very unsuccessful in doing so. And we know if they reach majorities after the 2026 midterms, God forbid, all they'll want to do is impeach and remove the president. I'm interested to see what the reasoning will be. As we know, the fake impeachments and the hoaxes that took place. Remember Russia in the first term, how ridiculous those things were. But the Save America Act being the main focus as this president wants that passed. And Senator John Thune waiting on that 60-vote threshold. Can that happen? Can he push that through in reconciliation? We'll watch all of that as it's a big week on Capitol Hill. As we await Karoline moments from now, we'll take a quick commercial break for sponsorships here on the right side of history. Don't change that dial. Stick with us as we await Karoline Leavitt.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interviewed the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
Voter ID, very popular with Americans, both Republican and Democrat and independent. Oh, but except Democrat politicians on Capitol Hill. President Trump has been unequivocal. Nothing is more important and fundamental to the integrity of our country than the security of our elections. That's why the Trump administration repeatedly calling on Congress to pass the Save America Act, common sense legislation that requires voters to present photo ID and implementing other critical measures to protect federal elections from fraud and abuse. Yet, despite overwhelmingly popular support across every demographic, radical left politicians continue to block these reforms, placing partisan politics above the clear will of the American people, including their own voters, and above the basic security of elections. Voter ID extremely popular with the American people. Polling has consistently shown strong majorities, including among Democrats, independents, Caucasians, African Americans, Latinos, all supporting voter ID requirements. According to the Pew Research Center, 83% of Americans favor requiring all voters to show government-issued photo ID, including 95% of Republicans, 71% of Democrats, and just 16% of Americans are in opposition. 84% of Americans, according to Gallup, supporting requiring the photo ID to vote, including 98% of Republicans, 84% of independents, 67% of Democrats. Separately from that, 83% support requiring proof of citizenship while registering to vote for the first time. Additional surveys, including the Neapolitan News Service, the Center Square, consistently show extraordinary support for so-called voter ID, something that might be addressed today in the press briefing moments from now. Also, CNN reporter Harry Enton stating the bottom line is this: voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial by party, not controversial by race, and the vast majority of Americans agree. And also NBC Nightly News anchor Tom Lamas, you might have seen this from the Super Bowl the other night, stating this unequivocally, to quote, voter ID rules do have wide public support, but the vast majority of Democrats on Capitol Hill oppose them. This isn't a close call by any stretch. It's time for Congress to act and for Democrat politicians to stop standing in the way of election security. That, according to the White House Communications Office, as this administration focused on some key issues right now with the stock market exploding, soaring, especially for retirement accounts. The Dow Jones Industrial Average shattering that $50,000 mark for the first time ever, with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ also smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming under President Trump's pro-growth policies, proving that the economy is roaring back stronger than ever. ICE hammers criminal illegal aliens in just this past week in West Virginia, arresting 650, including convicted child sex abusers, drug pushers, also burglars and fraudsters. And nationwide, ICE continues removing convicted murderers and pedophiles, drug traffickers, terrorists, sex offenders, child abusers, domestic abusers, and money launderers, to the score of other criminal illegal aliens wreaking havoc in this country. In Minnesota alone, Operation Metro Surge already taking 4,000 criminal illegals off the streets, and it's not stopping. Also, some other good news: the ending of the barbaric mutilation of children. In Minnesota's largest children's hospital, just halting prescriptions of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones for minors, joining a growing list of institutions finally backing down amid the Trump administration's relentless pressure. The American Society of Plastic Surgeons coming out in opposition to gender mutilation surgeries for children, becoming the first major medical group, in fact, to do so. Some very positive news there. Also, a court victory locking in tough immigration enforcement. A federal appeals court just upheld the Trump administration's policy of detaining illegal aliens, validating the strong measures that have driven illegal crossings to historic lows and sent crystal clear messages that President Trump, this administration is clear: if you enter illegally under this leadership, you will be detained and removed. All in the backdrops of a 125-year low of crime here in America. After record crime across the country during the Autopen administration, in the defund the police era, the murder rate now plunging again to that 125-year low. It's a remarkable success story after the Trump administration surged federal resources into crime-plagued Washington, D.C. The district went 3 weeks into the new year before recording its first homicide, the first time the nation's capital had gone more than 10 days into a new year without a murder in at least 3 decades. Their Washington Wizards basketball team, in fact, used to be called the Washington Bullets because of the crime and the murder rate in the federal city. Now, everyday costs continue moderating for the American people under the leadership of this administration. The national median rents falling to a 4-year low following 6 consecutive monthly declines, while at the same time a surging 4-year high affordability rate with President Trump's initiative for home ownership and making it affordable again. PepsiCo announcing a price cut for up to 15% of its core brands. And also President Trump launching TrumpRx.gov, TrumpRx.gov, a transformative new government platform that gives Americans direct access to dramatically lower prices on common high-cost prescription drugs. There's a reason consumer sentiment has spiked to a 6-month high as a result, as the border remains sealed up. For an unprecedented 9th straight month, there were 0 illegal border crossings at the southern border, an achievement unparalleled in modern history. These wins aren't happening by accident. They come after President Trump logged the most productive first year in any administration's history in the modern era. Truly amazing to watch as this second term, the foot is not being let off the gas as it's all go, all systems, all units ready, willing, and able, as President Trump has promised to make America great again, delivering bigger, faster, and harder than ever before. As we toss now to the White House, Karoline Leavitt, the superstar White House press secretary, in the James S. Brady briefing room in the West Wing.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I apologize for the delay. I was once again with the president. He and I were both reviewing the newly released surveillance footage from FBI in the Savannah Guthrie case on just this heartbreaking situation with respect to her mother. The president encourages any American across the country with any knowledge of the suspect to please call the FBI, who continue to assist state and local authorities who are leading this investigation on the ground. And once again, I will reiterate that the prayers of this entire White House are with Savannah and her family at this time, and we hope this person is found soon and that her mother is brought home safely. President Trump has a very busy week ahead, so I will begin with some scheduling announcements today. Tomorrow here at the White House, the president will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a bilateral meeting. The remainder of the week will be focused on energy and deregulation. Tomorrow afternoon, the president will hold an event in the East Room to tout clean, beautiful coal as America's most reliable and affordable energy source, especially during periods of peak demand, just as we saw during this most recent winter storm, which impacted hundreds of millions of Americans. The president will discuss how clean, beautiful coal is not only keeping the lights on in our country, but also driving down the cost of electricity across the country as well. Additionally, on Thursday, President Trump will be joined by Administrator Lee Zeldin to formalize the rescission of the 2009 Obama-era endangerment finding. This will be the largest deregulatory action in American history, and it will save the American people $1.3 trillion in crushing regulations. The bulk of the savings will stem from reduced costs for new vehicles, with the EPA projecting average per vehicle savings of more than $2,400 for popular light-duty cars, SUVs, and trucks. This is just one more way this administration is working to make life more affordable for everyday Americans. Overall, these groundbreaking actions from President Trump will drive larger economic growth, create thousands of good-paying jobs, expand manufacturing, increase consumer choice, and improve affordability for millions of families and businesses. Finally, on Friday, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will travel to Fort Bragg in the great state of North Carolina to meet with military families and the heroic members of our special forces who carried out the successful Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela and helped bring narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro to justice. I know the President and First Lady are both greatly looking forward to this visit. Also, the First Lady will celebrate Valentine's Day at the Children's Inn at the National Institute of Health tomorrow, with children, families, and NIH staff involved in clinical trials. In other news this week, thanks to President Trump signing the largest middle-class tax cut in history, this is shaping up to be the biggest tax refund season ever, and we are in it now. President Trump and Republicans fundamentally believe that Americans deserve to keep more of their hard-earned money, not less, which is why he fought so hard to deliver this long overdue relief. From no tax on tips, overtime, or Social Security, to auto loan interest deductions on new American-made vehicles, plus increases to the standard deduction and child tax credit, more money is flowing back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. We're already hearing from everyday Americans across the country who are reporting substantial tax savings thanks to the Working Families Tax Cut, which every single Democrat in Congress voted against. AMAC, which represents millions of Americans, has heard directly from more than their 1,000 members already about how the Trump tax cuts are easing cost of living concerns. I wanted to share a few of those powerful responses with you today. This one comes from Dean and Wendy in Wisconsin, who says, quote, instead of paying out $3,700 last year, we got back $2,500 in refunds this year. This is huge for our family. Steve from California said, quote, the new senior citizen deduction is a tremendous relief and has given us peace of mind and the freedom to truly enjoy the retirement years we worked so hard for. Eric from Nevada said, as a senior, no tax on Social Security helps me tremendously. The no tax on tips helps my daughter-in-law as a waitress. The no tax on overtime helps my son, who works constantly. Our family savings from the One Big Beautiful Bill could total even more than $5,000. We love the Trump tax cuts. These are just a few positive examples of the everyday Americans that President Trump's tax cuts are uplifting. We'd love to hear more from the American people across the country who are benefiting from the Working Families tax cuts. The White House is also pleased to share that parents across the country can now officially apply to open a Trump account for their child. In order to apply, parents can visit trumpaccounts.gov and fill out the IRS form 4547. These Trump accounts are special investment accounts aimed at providing American children with a jump start on building wealth for life. They have all the tax advantages as a traditional IRA account, but are specifically tailored to build wealth the moment a child is born. Thanks to President Trump, every child born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028 is eligible to receive $1,000 from the U.S. Treasury to fund their account. Parents, guardians, and even nonprofits can then contribute up to $5,000 per year. Employers can also contribute up to $2,500 per year per employee. President Trump believes there is no better investment than investing in our nation's children. If you are a parent who maximizes contributions to your child's Trump account, its projected value could reach nearly $1.1 million by the time your child turns 28 years old, based on average historical stock market returns. Safe to say, the Trump accounts will give a substantial head start to position the next generation for a brighter future. And with the stock market exploding under President Trump's pro-growth policies, there has never been a better time to sign up for an investment account like this. The Dow Jones just shattered 50,000 for the first time ever on Friday, and the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ continue smashing record after record. So with President Trump in charge, Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming once again, and these new Trump accounts for America's kids will boom too. So with that, once again, every parent should go to trumpaccounts.gov today, and I'm going to put it on my own personal to-do list to sign up for one as well. With that, I will take your questions. Karoline Downey from the National Review is here. Thank you for being here, and why don't you kick us off?
Thank you for having me. On the criticism that immigration enforcement has become arbitrary or not particularly prioritizing, Democrats have been circulating this statistic that only 14% of illegal aliens arrested under this administration are violent criminals, but we know that in deep blue cities with progressive district attorneys, it's common to plead down serious violent crimes into less serious offenses, which could be distorting those numbers. So given that backdrop, does the administration still stand by the messaging that you're targeting the worst of the worst, and does this prevailing narrative tell the whole story?
Well, thank you for bringing this up, Karoline. I've seen this CBS report floating around. There's a lot of liberal talking heads and pundits and Democrat elected politicians who think that this single story and these statistics and the way they are painted is somehow a shot at this administration. It is not. And let me correct the record. Number one, the Trump administration has been clear from day one that any illegal alien present in this country is subject to deportation. However, the priority, of course, is going after the convicted criminals, the worst of the worst, the murderers, the pedophiles, the rapists in this country. Interestingly, in the CBS story, what the Democrat talking heads on television are not saying is this line. Nearly 60% of ICE arrestees over the past year had criminal charges or convictions. And among that population, the majority of the criminal charges or convictions are for nonviolent crimes. Oh, well, what are nonviolent crimes, you ask? This has coincided with what DHS has been saying all along, that approximately 70% of illegal aliens arrested under President Trump have pending criminal charges and or prior convictions. And these so-called nonviolent crimes, drug trafficking, distribution of child porn, burglary, fraud, DUI, embezzlement, solicitation of a minor, and human smuggling, just to name a few. So just because a crime is not violent in nature doesn't mean that crime is victimless. And I can guarantee every single person who is out there on television right now pointing to these statistics that were taken out of context by CBS News would not want an illegal alien convicted of the distribution of child porn or fraud or DUI living in your community. So the Trump administration will continue our focus on deporting all illegal aliens present in our country with a focus on the worst of the worst criminals. Thank you for being here. Gabe.
Karoline, thank you. And thank you for the update on our colleague Savannah Guthrie's mother. Is there anything more you can share? You said the president was reviewing that surveillance footage. What was his initial reaction when seeing those disturbing images? And does he believe that that suspect acted alone?
I haven't talked to him specifically about the second point on whether the suspect acted alone or not, so I don't want to weigh in on the president's thinking on that. His initial reaction, of course, as all Americans, is just pure disgust. And again, it's heartbreaking to see now this footage really bring to life a story we've all been reading about. And again, we're just praying for the safety of Nancy Guthrie and that she will return home soon. And the president directed me to please encourage all Americans with any information to call the FBI. And we hope that this case will come to a positive resolution as soon as possible.
We, of course, have a lot to talk about and a completely separate topic. I was hoping you could clarify something that's come up over the last several days, again, regarding a separate topic in the Epstein files. According to newly released files, the president had a conversation with the Palm Beach police chief in the early 2000s, according to the police chief in 2019. The president has gone on record before, and he's told reporters that he said that that he had no idea about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. During this conversation with the police chief, however, he did say, according to this recounting of it, that thank goodness you're stopping him. He also called Ghislaine Maxwell evil. So my two questions are, did that conversation with the Palm Beach police chief happen? And can you explain the discrepancy?
What I will say is that the president has always remained consistent and that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club at Mar-a-Lago because, frankly, Jeffrey Epstein was a creep. And unlike many other people who are named in these files, President Trump cut off his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and was honest and transparent about that for years and years. And so I think what the president has said all along has always remained true. And the release of more than 3 million documents related to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous, disgusting crimes just shows the level of transparency that this president and administration has committed to in bringing these files to light.
But did he call the chief in 2006? Karoline, did he call the chief?
Look, it was a phone call that may or may not have happened in 2006. I don't know the answer to that question. What I'm telling you is that what President Trump has always said is that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club because Jeffrey Epstein was a creep, and that remains true. And this call, if it did happen, corroborates exactly what President Trump has said from the beginning. And I'm sure many of you, when you read that alleged FBI report, probably thought to yourself, wow, this really cracks our narrative that we've been trying to push about this president for many years. So we're moving on from that. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to ask you about the SAVE Act. NBC reported that there's some hesitation among House Republicans on adding absentee ballot restrictions into the SAVE Act. Can you explain what the hesitation is among House Republicans and also just provide the status of negotiations with Congress on the legislation?
Sure. I can't speak for House Republicans, Reagan. I can obviously speak for the president, who is quite possibly the strongest supporter of the Save America Act, which, as you know, would require proof of citizenship to register to vote. It would require proof of identification, a photo identification before casting a ballot. And it would also ensure that there are exceptions made. I think that's what you're alluding to with these conversations with House Republicans for reasonable requests, of course, for our military, for individuals who are disabled and cannot make it to the polls. Those are reasonable, common sense things that I believe House Republicans are discussing amongst themselves. But as for the president, he's been very clear. He wants House Republicans and Democrats, too, if they were politically wise, to pass this legislation, for the Senate to pass it, to send it to the president's desk so it can be signed into law.
Follow-up. I'm wondering when the last time the president spoke to Leader Thune was, and if he discussed using the standing filibuster to pass legislation.
The president has given his position on the standing filibuster. As for his most recent conversation with Leader Thune, frankly, I'm not sure. I do know they speak very frequently. The president's in constant communication with both Leader Thune and the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. Stephen, I see we switched up our seating chart. Your direct line of sight now. Congratulations.
Thank you to the Correspondents Association for recognizing the New York Post's reach. I've got two questions for you, one about the Guthrie case and then another about infrastructure. On the Guthrie case, does President Trump have a warning to the culprits here about what would happen to them, what federal consequences they would face if they do not release Nancy Guthrie unharmed?
I think anyone who was involved in this depraved crime, this abduction, of course, we want to be seen held to the fullest extent of the law possible.
And on infrastructure, can you explain why President Trump asked Chuck Schumer to help him rename Penn Station and Dulles Airport after himself? Why is he interested in having his name on those two buildings? And why are the Gateway Tunnel funds the proper point of pressure to get that to happen?
To your first question about the renaming, why not? It was something the president floated in his conversation with Chuck Schumer. As for the funding, the president has addressed that separately himself. Danny.
Thanks. Today, the vice president's account posted and then deleted a tweet about the Armenian genocide. And then last week, President Trump's Truth Social account posted and then deleted a racist video about the Obamas. And the White House again blamed that on a staffer. I wanted to ask you, does the White House have a social media problem at the moment? Do you have an auto-posting problem that's leading to these mistakes?
No. As for the Armenian tweet that you're referring to, I would just refer you back to the White House's message that was issued on Armenian Remembrance Day, and there's been no change of policy at this time. Mary?
Thanks, Caroline. When the president goes to Beijing in the spring, does he have plans to try and advocate on behalf of Jimmy Lai, who was just sentenced to 20 years yesterday?
This is something I've heard the president advocate for, both publicly and privately. I had the honor of being in that meeting with President Trump and President Xi in South Korea that took place, and this was brought up by the president himself. It is important to him, and he looks forward to visiting China in April. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. So some Republican lawmakers from Nebraska have said they're worried that the Argentinian beef executive order will sideline some American ranchers. How will the Trump administration make sure prices go down for consumers without harming those ranchers?
Of course. Well, both things can happen at the same time. That's the president's belief. He wants to see prices come down. In fact, I just overheard him on the phone with Secretary Rollins. They were talking about something different, but he's always saying we got to make sure that prices continue to come down. As you know, Secretary Rollins successfully did that with respect to egg prices. Beef prices are coming down slightly, and the president wants to see that continue. He believes that a minor import to the country with cattle might be a short-term solution with respect to bringing down prices, but of course protecting our American cattle and rancher industry is a priority for the president, and he's in touch with those stakeholders. We've had them here at the White House a few times in recent months to discuss this issue directly. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Yesterday, the president on social media threatened to block the new Gordie Howe Bridge, which would connect Detroit to Canada. This is a bridge that was fully paid for by Canada, It used American labor to construct it. It used American steel to construct that bridge. The president in 2017 was actually in favor of this bridge, part of a joint statement that he put out when he met with the Canadian Prime Minister. Why has the president changed his mind as it relates to this bridge?
I think the president was very clear and direct in his truth, John, but just to reiterate, the fact that Canada will control what crosses the Gordie Howe Bridge and owns the land on both sides is unacceptable to the president. It's also unacceptable that more of this bridge isn't being built with more American-made materials, even more so than what President Barack Obama committed to with the Canadians at the time, at the start of the project. He also believes that the U.S. should own at least half of the bridge, have shared authority over what passes across it, and participate in the economic benefits generated by its use. This is just another example of President Trump putting America's interests first, and so he made that very clear in his call with Prime Minister Carney earlier today. Phil.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem just posted a photo of herself signing the last contract to build the border wall between Laredo, Del Rio, and Big Bend, Texas, among reports that construction had stalled. Is the president satisfied with the pace of construction?
The president wants to make sure that the full border wall is built as quickly as possible, of course. I know this is a priority for him dating back to 2016, and so absolutely he wants to ensure that the border wall is built under budget and ahead of schedule is how President Trump likes to view building projects, and that includes the border wall.
Satisfied with the pace of construction thus far?
I think the president is never satisfied. He always wants to ensure that things are moving along as quickly as possible, but I know Secretary Noem is on it, and she's doing a great job.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you.
Charlie.
On the Nancy Guthrie case, is the president satisfied with the federal and local investigation so far? And has there been any more contact from the White House or the president with the family?
I don't think anybody will be satisfied until this case is brought to a close and until Nancy Guthrie is returned home safely with her loved ones.
Contacts? Has the president contacted the family since?
Not since that initial phone call. Sure. Tamara.
Thank you. The National Governors Association is removing a meeting with President Trump from his agenda because only Republicans were invited. Is the White House reconsidering inviting Democrats, or do you think Republicans are still going to show up? Like, where does that stand now?
No, look, I just spoke with the president about this. It is a dinner at the White House. It's the people's house. It's also the president's home, and so he can invite whomever he wants to dinners and events here at the White House. I believe Governor Moore was invited last year, and he did not show up to the dinner last year. Nobody reported on it. But again, the president has the discretion to invite whomever he wants to the White House, and he welcomes all those who received an invitation to come. And if they don't want to, that's their loss.
And on Ghislaine Maxwell, is the president going to rule out a pardon for her in her testimony, deposition yesterday? Her legal team seemed to be making a case, again, for a pardon from the president.
Again, this is not something I've discussed with the president recently because, frankly, it's not a priority. He's focused on many of the issues that the American people are dealing with and providing solutions to those issues. So I haven't spoken with him recently. Last time we did speak about it, he said it's not something he's considering or thinking about. Go ahead, Bloomberg.
Thanks, Caroline. Secretary Litnick today was testifying on the Hill, and he said that he had visited Epstein's Island in 2012 with his wife and children, and that's after he said that he had cut ties with Epstein, and Justice Department documents show that he was in contact with Epstein through 2018 over messages. So does the White House stand behind Secretary Litnick right now, or given what he has said today, has there been any shift in how the White House is viewing Secretary Litnick's performance?
No, Secretary Litnick remains a very important member of President Trump's team, and the president fully supports the secretary. I will just point out that there are a lot of wins in the news this week that people in this room have not asked about because you continue to ask questions about the same subject, so let me point them out for you. Again, on Friday, the Dow shattered 50,000 for the first time ever. This week, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons came out in opposition to gender mutilation surgeries for children. They are the first major medical group to do so. A federal appeals court today, nobody asked about that, just upheld the Trump administration's policy of detaining illegal aliens, validating the strong measures that have driven illegal crossings to historic lows, and sent a crystal clear message that under President Trump, if you enter the country illegally, you will be detained and removed. The murder rate, again, not a single question about this, has plunged to a 125-year low as crime falls across the board thanks to President Trump's crime crackdown. We also saw this week national median rents have fallen to a 4-year low following 6 consecutive monthly declines, and mortgage affordability has surged to a 4-year high. Home ownership is the core foundation principle of the American dream, and I will repeat that mortgage affordability this week surged to a 4-year high, but not a single of mention of that in this briefing room today. And again, this came out last Friday, but for an unprecedented 9th straight month, there were 0 illegal border crossings at the southern border. So we're going to get back to business. The president is very busy today, and you will see him all tomorrow at the event in the East Room touting his administration's energy policy. Thank you.
So a big day at the White House today with Karoline Leavitt, the superstar, the press secretary there in the James S. Brady briefing room. Of course, that New York Post report that there was this alleged conversation over the phone with the FBI and then citizen Donald Trump in 2006 regarding Epstein and calling Ghislaine Maxwell a relatively evil one. We'll see if that development did take place, but apparently that there in the 3.5 million pages of those documents in the Epstein files, as that story continues to be out there in the media. But lots happening in Washington, D.C., of course, affecting you inside and outside of the Beltway. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for Right Side Broadcasting Network and your latest from the White House and your federal government working overtime for the American people. The big story this week as well, what's happening on Capitol Hill. Can the extension of government funding happen after Friday the 13th? We'll be close on that. If there's any breaking news, we'll be right here with you. As Karoline mentioned, that the president focused on energy policy and dealing with that this afternoon. But as always, thank you for joining us on this Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. For all of my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Robert McNeely. Have a wonderful day and God bless you. And we will see you again very soon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.